Hey, FlashPoint Army, are you looking for truth and news all in the spirit of faith? Well, don't forget to click the subscribe button and hit the bell icon to stay connected. Not a part of the FlashPoint Army? Sign up for the latest email updates at govictory.com/FP signup and join us as we stand for truth and freedom. This is Speaker Mike Johnson, what he had to say about the Trump verdict. Watch.
What happened to President Trump is lawfare. There's no other way to describe it. They went after the Democrat Party and they used the system of justice to go after a political opponent. I think that this will probably guarantee that President Trump is reelected president. And I think their strategy is going to backfire on them.
All right, before you comment, let me show you this from RFK Jr., his comments on the verdict.
It's bad for our democracy. I think the Democrats feel like they have the DNC feels like it has a candidate that cannot win fair and square in the polls. And so they have to win in the courts. They have to win by clearing the deck and getting their other opponents out of the race.
Lou, is that true? Is it bad for democracy?
I think that it's bad for democracy, but it's worse for President Trump, who's been persecuted politically for 9 years. And RFK Jr., I did not recall at once protesting the actions of the party to which he belonged. And I really find his comments, and frankly, those of Speaker Johnson, to be nothing more than rationalization. Speaker Johnson talking as though he were not the Speaker of the House, the third most powerful person in the succession of our federal government. He sounded like he was a witness, a bystander, instead of someone who has put together a $1.5 trillion spending plan that broke a budget, and he also broke his word when he did that. He is also the man who voted for warrantless surveillance of citizens of this country, and in my opinion, he should live in shame for having done that. I am really tired of people who talk but do not perform up to their principles.
So I'm going to just ask your opinion here, Lou. Why would he not respond? I hear what you're saying, but why is that? Does he not understand his role, or is it just abdicating it?
Well, he's abdicated it for what is to your point, but his motivation I can't discern, because he has betrayed his own principles. He was known as being very much for warrants required under the 702 section for spying on an American citizen. He's changed it. He has changed significantly. Those who followed his career, he is almost impossible to define now. He's making noises, as you heard there, but that was for the most part blather. He didn't rush to the defense of the president. He stood in front of microphones in New York outside the courtroom and basically called it FaceTime instead of actually stating a statement and giving Americans a view of what he was going to do. He has pledged nothing. And to me, that's a sad commentary on the man's character. And by the way, much of this is about, Gene, if I may say this very quickly, everybody has to understand that this is character on display, whether it is the Marxist Dems Party, whether it is the Republican Party. But this nation right now needs men and women of character, and not just simply those who go on and blather about their political views or the context of our political economy, for example. It's just, to me, a time where people really need to reflect on who they are and who they should be, whether it be their faith, whether it be their political philosophy. Everybody needs to make a statement about their own through their actions, not their words.
It's true. So good, Lou. And I like that. Character is indeed on display right now. Well, one of the results of all of this Trump conviction, Americans showed up in record numbers with support. Watch.
This might be a little inside information, but as I was leaving my house about 37 seconds ago, I asked my wife, what are we up to now? And she said, just in terms of small dollar, we're well over $70 million. This is $21 donations, $43 donations, right? Small dollar donations. If you add the large dollar donations to it, you're over $200 million. But you're over $70 million. And by the way, Maria, 30% of those people have never been seen before by a political party, right? I mean, these are Americans who are pissed off. They're coming out of the woodwork, and they want to support a guy that they just believe is getting bamboozled by a system. And we saw it with impeachment 1. We saw it with impeachment 2. We see it where they weaponize every liberal DA and AG across the country with one intent: to take him down, to slander him, to ruin his reputation, to try and divide his family, to try and bankrupt him, to throw him in jail, to do whatever the hell they can do. And America sees through it. They know exactly what's going on.
Do they see through it, Mark?
Oh, I definitely think they see through it. We're seeing this in the enthusiastic response everywhere Trump goes. We saw him at a mixed martial arts fight, and the ovation was like nothing I had ever heard before. Anywhere Trump goes right now, he's being wildly accepted. This includes in the Bronx, includes a minority.
Just said the financial aspect is beginning to rise. And the reason is Jesus said that a person's heart and their treasure go together. They are striking the heart and the soul of the American public. People are tired. They've had enough. The Democrats are responsible, they know, for their loony liberalism that is destroying our country. And people have had enough, Pastor Gene, and that's why those numbers are going to continue to grow and grow and grow. And we're going to see a fighter who is going to stand again in this land for we the people. And that's what it's going to take because of all the damage that has been done with those who want to destroy our country. It's going to take somebody like Donald Trump and we the people to reset this thing back in a place of order in an amazing way this November.
You know, Lou, I'm looking at your shot there, and I see Butker's jersey hanging back there. And, you know, recently you were talking about, with their, if I can paraphrase, that we have to get to the place where we've got to stand up for something. Your character on display. Speak to that. Why do you display his jersey right there?
Because the man stood up for his faith, his country, his political views, his social views, and he did not simply pander to the presumed audience. He, in fact, engaged his beliefs with theirs. So many of them. And there were something like 80,000 people as soon as he said that, demanding that Kansas City fire him on the spot because he had the temerity to express what he believes, his religion, his politics, his ideology, his love of country, and his faith dominated in that speech that he gave. To me, it was a wonderful moment, and I put that jersey behind, and I'm not a Kansas City Chiefs fan at all, but I'm sure as heck a Butker fan, without question.
All right, Pastor Hank, I want to go to you, and as we start to wrap things up here, we talked Thursday night when the verdict was handed down. We came on live, and we talked about to not get in despair and to get despondent about what's going on, about how we've got to stay engaged and don't throw in the towel and go, oh no, this is what happened. I mean, I saw something today, and I wrote something today about all of my heroes were victims of a sham trial. Namely, Jesus was one. It was a sham trial with him and Joseph, and so many people and the characters in the Bible. What is it that we need to take from this, Pastor Hank, to be encouraged that we're going to see God do something here?
Well, one thing I always love about God is he always seems to be what I would say last minute. In other words, we want God to move now, and it doesn't seem like he does. But he ultimately comes through when we use our faith and we are faithful. And I'm telling you, there's something that always throughout history saves a nation, and it's called a remnant. It's the people. And when they get a hold of things that motivate and touch the heart of God, he begins to act. But I want to say this. We talked on Thursday, Pastor Gene, and it was great to have you, by the way, a part of that on your vacation. Man, I highly respect you, and so do the people, for really coming on at that last minute. But here's here's what ultimately we need to know. You got to look at the obvious. It's obvious. They are trying to set up President Trump to fail. They would love to remove him. They're not going to be able to do it. Why? Because here's the answer to your question. It's the God factor. Anytime that you have to press against the Lord, you're going to lose. And God has injected himself into this country, and they're going to continue to lose on every side. And by the way, for those of you that are wondering about all of these verdicts, God has said, that's the next quick point, he said they would be like feathers and they would begin to fall. Now, doesn't mean that you're not going to see them hand out a fake guilty verdict. It just means like this feather. It may take time, but ultimately it's going to have no weight. And you're going to see all of this begin to fall. It won't have any weight because it has God's backing, and the Lord has already told us how it's going to turn out. So we have to hold God to what he said in his word, but also what he's saying prophetically by his Spirit. And if we do, we won't get in fear and anxiety, and we will see what God has said come to pass.
All right. But first, let me introduce our next guest. Pete Hegseth is a host of Fox and Friends, veteran, patriot, author, Christian, and we're honored to welcome him to FlashPoint. Pete, welcome to the program tonight. Good to have you on.
Hey, Pastor Gene, thanks for having me.
All right, Pete, before we get into your book, which I want to talk about, this weekend you had a sit-down interview with President Trump about the decision made in New York that we all know about on Thursday. How's he responding to that conviction?
Incredible. I was taken aback almost by the sense of calm. He talked a lot about the prayer he's received and how important it's been for him. He talked about the fact that it's probably put the most pressure on his family. Right. You know, this is a guy who's been through, I mean, not just campaigns and debates and everything, and elections and everything that's gone with it, but, you know, Russiagate, impeachment 1, impeachment 2, a raid on his own home, now a sham trial and a sham conviction. And he's just, it feels like he's at peace with it and says, hey, and he seems to say, I don't know how this happens, but my poll numbers seem to go up every time they do this. And it's a reflection of the love that people across the country have for me. So he was as in good. I've had the honor of interviewing him many, many times, and he was in as good of spirits as I've ever seen him. 48 hours after a sham, conviction on 44 felony counts, and he's ready to fight. Gene, I mean, this is why people love him. He's not down in the dumps. He's not second guessing. He's in it to win it.
Amen. All right, let me show this quick clip from Fox and Friends. Donald Trump, this is from that interview on the verdict.
You've said, no, my revenge is going to be success for America. You've just had this verdict. Yeah. Do you still feel the same? What's your thoughts on that?
It's a really tough question in one way, because these are bad people. These people are sick, and they do things that are so destructive. It's a very interesting question, and I say it and it sounds beautiful, right? You know, my revenge will be success, and I mean that. But it's awfully hard when you see what they've done. These people are so evil. And at the same time, the country can come together. You know, I'm saying this, but the country can come together. You know, during my term, prior to COVID, we had the most successful country we've ever had. Success will bring the country together, because I had it together. Before the China virus came in, I had it together. We really had it together. And it would have stayed. I think it would have stayed. Everybody was doing better. The country was doing better than it had ever done. And we're going back to those same policies and then some.
Attorney General, what are you, we talked about how you fix the DOJ, how you bring justice back to this country. When we talk to people, people's faith in the system is shattered. Yeah. I mean, absolutely shattered. We've seen it in your fundraising numbers.
It should be.
So who do you choose? What kind of, do you have a name that you're top on your list?
I do have a couple, and one in particular, but I made a lot of good choices. I got that one wrong. I was very loyal to one because he was the first senator to endorse me. As soon as conflict came up, he ran for the hills.
All right, Pete, I mean, it was a great piece you guys did. I want to understand from your perspective, were there any surprises in this time around with Trump?
You know, I was surprised by the candid nature of that first answer. In the moment here at, what do you do about the weaponizing of the DOJ and the FBI? And he didn't say only, success is my revenge. He didn't say, oh, I'm going to weaponize. He said, I don't know. He said, I'm not sure. What do you do when you want to do right by it? And we asked him about the lock her up chance. Remember that with Hillary Clinton? And he pointed out, I didn't lock her up, because the point is you go to battle with your political opponents, and then the election's over and the American system is predicated on moving on. So I didn't do that. But now they've turned around and tried to lock me up. So what do I do with that? And lock me up on sham charges. So I think he's a man pretty conflicted on that side, who's, he's got a whole campaign still to run with a lot of obstacles still in front of him. It remains to be seen. The left is I'm looking right now at CNN. They're losing their minds on that clip that you just played, because, what's he going to do? Go after his opponents? What do you think you've been doing to him? So that remains to be seen. But it was the introspective nature of his answer that was really interesting to me. He did say, hey, I want to get rid of the Department of Education. I want to get rid of the Department of Interior. So he's talking big things, and that's good to hear.
It is good to hear. All right. Pete, you're talking about Donald Trump. You're talking about a warrior, which leads me to your book, this new release, June 4th, The War on Warriors Behind the Betrayal of the Men Who Keep Us Free. Explain what all this is about, Pete.
Yeah, I know you have a really loyal audience of patriots, many of which are from military families or have served themselves or just love the military. And they've seen what I've seen, and then I got to do a deep dive on it. Our military is at a crisis moment. That's the reason why the flag on the front of the book is upside down. It's a universal sign of duress. The Pentagon, our military, should be focused on meritocracy and lethality, on holding people accountable and maintaining standards high. That's the military I was a part of. That's what the military that fights and wins wars. And starting mostly under Obama and now under Biden, social ideologues, political appointees, have pushed social justice prerogatives into the military, and generals have let it happen, whether it's women in combat, whether it's climate change schemes, and we're pushing electric tanks right now, whether it's DEI or CRT or trans in the military. It's shocking. I interviewed dozens and dozens of actively serving men and women.
Right.
Most of them said they had experience with a trans soldier in their unit, which forces everyone what this military was founded to do in the first place. It's lost its way big time. I tell my own story too, Gene. I served the better part of 12, 13 years in uniform. I signed up to fight extremists, and at the end, my own unit dubbed me as an extremist because of a Christian tattoo I have on my chest, and I eventually resigned as a result. That's happened to more people than you know.
Okay.
And
all right,
extremism is the way before it's scary.
Back up, Pete. You're saying because of a Christian tattoo on your chest, you have suffered because of that, because of a Christian tattoo in our military.
You're familiar with the Jerusalem cross?
Absolutely.
You're familiar with the Jerusalem cross? I have one right here on my chest. And it was during the inauguration of Joe Biden. I was in the D.C. National Guard. My job was to help guard it. And I had orders like everyone else did to guard the inauguration. Everybody. This was after January 6th, so all the guard was there.
Right.
And a day before, I got a call from my commander that said, we don't need you, Major, stand down. Your orders have been revoked. And they wouldn't tell me why. For the reasons while I was writing this book, I got a chance to get the real scoop. And it was because members of my unit had gone through my Instagram page, found that tattoo, dubbed it a white nationalist or extremist tattoo. And so leadership agreed with them, and they revoked my orders. It's staggering. And now, was it because I'm a Christian? Was it because of the tattoo? Was it because of Fox News? Was it because I support Donald Trump? I'm not quite sure. But all of those are the wrong answer in a military that's supposed to be nonpartisan and committed to, defending the Constitution. So I'm one of many casualties of men and women of faith, people who have a principle around a vaccine. You take the Gadsden flag, don't tread on me. It's not allowed on posts anymore. You're not allowed to fly it. It's considered extremism. So there's an ideological lens through which the military is deciding who gets promoted, who they want to recruit. That's why you see recruitment problems. And it's changed the whole ethos of who decides to serve and what those formations look like. And it's not going to make us better at defeating China or anybody else on the world stage. And what are we going to do, throw our pronouns at them? And we're in a bad spot, and a new commander-in-chief is going to have to change it.
Let me bring Mark Meckler in. Mark, you're hearing Pete, and I know you know Pete. I did not know that's part of the story with the tattoo. This is quite concerning. I can feel all of America right now going, wait, what did he just say? That's the reason I had him repeat it. Mark, this is staggering. While it's okay to make sure we include the trans and the woke agenda in our military, he's got a tattoo, and that's somehow offensive? Come on, Mark, this is crazy.
Yeah, look, and I've known Pete for a long time. There are certainly a lot of commentators out there that use a lot of hyperbole. That's not Pete Hegseth. When you're hearing a story like this, these are just the facts as they are. You know, I have a son who served 4 years in the Marine Corps. He planned on making it a career. He went in and enlisted. He came out after 4 years with a degree. He was going to go to be an officer, and he opted out because he saw all the wokeness coming into the military. He's a very smart guy, could have ended up in intelligence or something like that. But instead, he went out. He's a lawyer now, and he's suing the Biden administration. But the military, the Marine Corps, lost a very good Marine because he saw the wokeness and he's experiencing the stuff that Pete experienced.
And that's just one story. How many more are there just like that have happened? All right, it just makes me mad. Here we've got a veteran, a decorated soldier, a patriot, and you kick him out? Come on. Or you stand down? I mean,
imagine how many people it's happening to, Gene, who don't get a chance to tell their story, who don't get a straight answer. It silently happens to them. I decided to leave after what I was labeled as.
Right.
There are other people that don't get that choice. And I've never told this story before. I'm telling it for the first time because of the book. And I'm hoping it wakes people up to the depth of the ideological lens by which our leaders are sending this military adrift.
All right, so the book, The War on Warriors, Behind the Betrayal of the Men Who Keep Us Free. Pete, tell us about the book and when it comes out and where they can get it.
Gene, it comes out tomorrow, so I'm glad to be here with your audience, because if they order it right now, they can get it tomorrow or Wednesday, so it's hot off the presses. And it's both some of my story, but mostly a reflection, as Mark pointed out, of other people who serve, who told me what they've seen, which reflect my experience, which is your gender and your racial background are what are more important than how you achieve based on standards and merit that used to be what our military represents. I mean, the great summation of this is all the leaders in the military these days yell all the time, congressional hearings, our diversity is our strength. And that is the biggest piece of garbage I've ever heard, especially inside our military, where our strength is our unity of effort, our belief in each other. There's no black and white. We're all green and we bleed red. We have a mission. We do it together. Everything else is superfluous. And if you were trying to draw up a diagram of how to destroy a military, it's what Obama and Biden have done. So we need Donald Trump. He needs to fire the woke generals. As he said in our interview on Fox News, he said, I'll fire the woke generals. You need to get rid of DEI and CRT, especially in our military academies and at ROTC, so that you can officer corps focus on the right thing. And then you can bring it, then recruitment recovers. You spend money the way you should, and you've got a military capable of fending off the world. But right now, we're in a bad spot, and I'm hoping this book is part of exposing that and bringing it back.
The War on Warriors. Thank you, Pete, for the book. I'll have to get a copy of it. Thank you for your service on behalf of the FlashPoint Army. Thank you for serving for us. And we hope to see you again soon. Thank you very much. All right, ladies and gentlemen, Pastor Hank, let me bring you in here. You heard Pete's story. I mean, and you know how many people in our events that come out, there's over 100,000 people that just even get the email. I mean, we run into veterans, people that lay it on the line or have laid it on the line time and time again. And then when we see something like this is, it's mind-boggling that we're seeing such a horrible response to somebody because they stood up for their beliefs.
That's right. Well, listen, this is not what our men in uniform died, bled, sweat for. This is an outrage. And, my dad served 25 years in the military. My brother went on and served 25 years in the Marine Corps, one of the most decorated Marines. And I was almost going to join the service myself, but I went into the ministry. This is not America. And a country is strong as its military. But I will say this, I do believe that there is a militarization Terry, there's a pause in our military. There's a waiting period that is taking place. I don't quite know what that is, but I think we're going to see that our military is involved. I don't know to what degree, but I do know this. Our military, along with our nation, will be made great again. And so I believe that for all those veterans that are watching tonight, that your service was not in vain. This country will be raised up again. And you, the soldiers that stood and absolutely enlisted in our great military, I believe you're going to be rewarded by God. I believe you're going to be rewarded by those of us patriots who salute you and respect you and honor you. And we're going to do the right thing. We're going to continue to stand up for you, and we're going to see our country be brought back to a place of liberty and freedom again.
Amen. We are indeed that. Let me bring in our friend Lou Dobbs. Lou, welcome back to FlashPoint. Lou, I wanted you on. I contacted you yesterday because I want the world wants to hear, what does Lou Dobbs think about this Trump case and the verdict and all that's gone on in the last few days? It's been mind-boggling. We're going to be okay, but yet what does this say to you when you see a former president get hit with all of these charges?
Well, it says the same thing to me that it's, I think, speaking to every American who cares about this country. We have now a legal profession that can't police itself or refuses to. We have a court system that is out of control. We also have, without question, political persecution that is now an accepted response to challenges politically. And there's one party responsible for it, and no one should be mistaking this. The Marxist Dems are the party of oppression, of censure, and gag orders, and the attempted destruction of their political opponents. They are totalitarian. They're authoritarian. And it isn't the Republican Party. There's one party responsible for this, Gene. And no one wants to say it is an issue of party and their identity and their wanton lawlessness. And if we do not hold them accountable on November 5th, but I think also the courts, once President Trump takes office on January 20th to 25, that would be a tremendous mistake.
So true, Lou Dobbs. Thank you.